I'm here with, hi, I'm here with Jim Greywolf Petruzzi. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. We're going to be talking about shamanism today. We were talking earlier, and it's something that I'm personally very interested in. And to be honest, I don't know that much about it, and I'd love to learn more. What I do know is, you know, shamans talk about being with nature. They're really into the rocks and the crystals and the formation and the earth. And I know about the journey inside of things too, but really limited. So if you can explain to me what it is, and to our listeners what it is and how it can help people, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I will give it a try. And yeah, you had some pieces of it for sure there. I was learning healing and indigenous practices for a number of years until my teachers thought maybe I should learn some shamanic practices. And I wasn't so sure because I'd heard that it's quite intense. But I agreed at their urging. And part of it, you're absolutely right, is around nature. As a matter of fact, it's connected directly to the Earth Mother. So you really have to have a full understanding and connection to the earth and her creatures and her trees and her rocks and her minerals if you really want to be effective using any kind of shamanic techniques. So they had me spend a long time doing just that and feeling the rocks and talking to the trees and feeling what was going on all the way down to the core of the earth, which I'd done a little bit of when I did plant medicine and other things, but never anything like that. Where it starts to differ then from other spiritual healing practices is it's kind of a last ditch approach to work on something that's really, really deep. People who have had things for a long, long period of time, many lifetimes, they're the type of folks who would come to a shamanic practitioner or a shaman if they could find one. There's not many of them out there. Actually, I was taught that at any given time, there's no more than 150 of them on the planet, which I found fascinating. Now, there's a lot of people that know different practices. I'm one of them. I've learned a lot of practices, but I would never say that I'm a shaman. I can help people with that medicine. It's not my preferred way. I think I've probably worked with 7 or 8 people using shamanic medicine throughout my 25, 30 years of spiritual healing. Because it is intense, tricky, and it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing or if the patient is not ready for it. Because you do literally dig into the deepest places in a person, in creation. You sometimes take that person on a journey into the death realm. And so you'll see as shamanic totems quite often, alligators, crocodiles, owls, those creatures who are between the light and the dark, who go from the death realm to the living realm. And they're ones that you work with quite a bit if you do this kind of medicine. It is extremely effective, quite often. Everyone I've used it with, everyone I used it with had amazing results. Not some of them, not all that they wanted it to be, but it wasn't time for that. But they all had good results. I have seen and heard of cases where that's not so. My own teachers told me, well, they give me a lot of warnings. And my primary teacher, Two Bears, I would consider him a shaman. He was probably the most amazing spiritual person I've ever met. Say he was a shaman, as most shamans will do. They don't say that's what they are. If their community, if their tribe, if their population says that's what they are, okay, then I'll come and I'll help you, but that's not what they say. But even he was very careful when he would use. He'd try every other medicine first. And then if they didn't work, he would resort to some of the shamanic techniques. And he always started with nature. So if you're going to try some shamanic techniques, either on yourself or you're going to go to someone who knows some of these techniques. Be ready to work in nature. If you're not, you're. And if you're trying to see if someone really understands shamanic medicine, ask them a little bit about it. And if they don't bring up nature, something's missing, at least the way I've been taught. And that's by many different cultures, not just one. So that's the starting point. What else can I answer? What did I miss, Sharon?
Well, I don't know if you've missed, but you've skimmed past, like at the very beginning, you were saying, hey, I talk to the trees. Now, to the most of us, how do you talk to a tree? How do you connect with rocks? What is it that, you know, we obviously don't do it. It's something that you've learned how to do. So if somebody wanted to start to connect with nature, how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I guess I was lucky because before I started working on this kind of medicine, I was learning a lot of plant medicine down in Central America. And so I was already being taught how to speak to the plants and the trees. And part of it is, first of all, it's not fast, because you're right, we don't do that, you know, and most people would say we're crazy. Many of them say, fine, I appreciate that. My elders would send me out for hours and hours on end, sitting next to a tree and listening until I could hear it. And over time, I mean a number of years, I really could sense what was going on with the tree. I can't explain it to you or describe. I would go and sit with rocks. Two Bears again, my Lakota elder. He loved to send me out with the Rock Nation. And sometimes I'd sit there for a day or more. And what he wanted me to feel was that rock moving, because everything moves. Rocks move as well. They're made up of molecules. There's energy. Those molecules move. Of course, we'd have to stick around a couple of billion years probably to sense that the thing had moved. But you learn how to sense those molecules. You learn how to feel them. Same thing with the animals. Animals are a little easier because they're a living entity. Some say they don't have spirits. That's ridiculous. They have incredibly strong spirits. And so the animals, that's where I would usually send people first, to get them to connect with animals. Then we start moving into members of the universe. Other than that, there are some, I hate the word tricks, but there are some techniques. You can start at a macro level, for example. So I might have somebody go out and just look at a blade of grass, one particular blade, and just see everything on its surface. And sit there with that for a while and feel it. And then slowly start to go into that blade of grass. Start to feel what's inside, what's moving through it. Where if there's a cricket out there, I may have them sit with a cricket. And you start to go from the outside to the inside, from the macro to the micro. And over time, you're able to do that. Energy flow. This is the basis of most shapeshifter stories. Most of my elders, they would laugh like the devil if they heard, they're shapeshifters. And they like to kid non-indigenous folks. Oh yeah. Yeah, my Uncle Lou, he would turn into a bear or a wolf or whatever. The reality is I've never met anybody who, said, no, they actually turned into one. However, you can meld with that creature and become that creature in just about every way except physically. You could be with them spiritually, mentally. You can feel yourself. I often go in and meld with the wolves because they're my totem. I can feel myself running across the meadows. I can feel things that a wolf would do. I can see things the wolf would see. And so that's the basis of shapeshifting, which is, again, to say that is a form of shamanic medicine. Not too many people can truly shapeshift. Can really feel that connection to the point of being out there and running around and then coming back and being comfortable with it.
See, that I can understand because I've been given a gift. I've been a physical therapist for 20 years, but I also work with the subconscious mind, and I do energy work with my clients. And quite often, if I'm touching my client, I can feel what's going on in their body. So I can
Yep.
understand that that would be the same
Yep.
thing, whether it be with a rock or whether it be, you know, with an animal. I'm also amazing with animals, and I can feel their emotions too. So yeah, I understand that. And the way that I would say that, it's an inner knowing or an intuition that I feel. Is that the same with shamanism?
With this part of it, yes, I think it is. And people always say, well, you know, sensing a human being and what they're feeling or doing, that's very different than sensing a tree or a rock or a cat. And no, it's not. The teaching of Mitakuye Ase, all my relations, we are all one. That's Lakota, means we're all one. We're all made out of energy. The teaching of the Mayan people, I am you and you are me, doesn't just mean human beings. Those things mean everything in its entirety. So it's just a matter of degree. And yeah, of course, to be a human, as humans, it's much easier for us to do that with a human. And we have to be, I'm sure you know, pretty much empathic to do that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get done with the humans, then you can move into the animals and you start to realize it's just energy. It's our human mind and our training that's made us think that the dog that's walking down the road now is different than me. He isn't his particulars, obviously, his size, his shape, his brain, his strength, but his energy is just energy, all from Creator, all from the universe. So yes, that part of it, the opening part, I say, of shamanism is equal to everything that's out there. When we start going deeper than that, and we start going into the darker realms, that's a whole different game. But if you have this behind you, you've got the strength, then not only of our own puny little human person sitting there, you've got the whole of creation there to keep you grounded because you've connected with everything. If I do shamanic medicine with somebody, if I use some of the teachings, some of the practices, I'd spend a day before getting ready by connecting with everything that is. And so when I sit with them, I want to be totally connected because usually they're scared. They're certainly in pain, usually great pain, or they wouldn't even be trying it. It's not only there for my own safety, but there for them in the best possible way. And it takes time to work with somebody with this medicine too. Usually when I work at first, I'll go slow, obviously. I'll use some of the rocks, the feathers, the crystals, some of the things I use in my other spiritual healing work. But I'll use them more deeply, and that's all I'll do for a while. Because often when I take them on a journey, you know, a spiritual journey, which you understand, right? It's different than meditating. You actually go there in spirit. Many of them can't cross into that gray area at first. It takes time. Even people with a lot of spiritual background, it's scary. I know for me, it scared the hell out of me. When I was first being trained in that, I kept telling them, I don't want any more. That's it. I'm done. But I kept coming back because I'm probably stubborn as hell.
Fair enough. I think, you know, there's so many of us, we're taught that, you know, everything, we should be love and light all the time. I don't believe that. I believe that, you know, there is that real mix, there's that duality. And I think, you know, going into that darkness is the thing that makes us grow. And, you know, because it's that darkness that holds us back, and that's where it holds all of the emotions and all of the ancestral stuff that we need to look at, to learn from, and to grow in the future. So I think it's amazing, amazing work. I do have one question that just popped to my mind. The different tribes that you worked with are obviously from different areas, but they are all shamans or elders. Are their medicines different with different cultures?
Yeah, that's another good question. Well, let me backtrack for a minute to what you just said, because it really is a critical point. The light and dark thing. We're, as living creatures, especially as humans, we all carry light and dark. And that's the story of the light wolf and the dark wolf. Which one is stronger? Whichever one we feed. That's always the way. Who really uses true shamanic techniques has got to totally understand and work with light and dark. There is no other way. That's what a shaman does. You know, there's lots of other modalities you can do. I can do plant medicine and not do shamanic medicine. But if you're really digging in, then you are working with the light and with the dark. And you're trying to get the balance up so that the light is the one that's stronger. You're feeding the light wolf with them. So that's a really interesting thing you brought up there. The people I worked with, let's see. Well, let me list some of them out. My Lakota family and Two Bears, that was my primary teachers. So there was Lakota. There was Blackfoot, which is another Plains tribe. There were some of the Kiwa tribes and others from the western U.S. There were the Mayan people I worked with in Central America, and then the African folks, the Garifuna, and then some of your homies, some of the Australian Aborigines who came. They actually came here and they stayed with me for a couple of years. And I worked with them here rather than there, which I haven't gotten there yet, but I'll do it one day if I live long enough.
You must come.
Yeah, really. So out of those, there were some times that I took Native American friends and some Aborigine friends down to Central America with me. And we all sat around the fire. The African folks were there. My Mayan teachers hosted us. And I just sat back and listened to them all talk. And while the specifics of how they went about things were different, they were all amazed how similar they were. So there is, I think, that strong connection. Were these people all shamans? Nope. And they'd be the first to say they were not. Most of them that I worked with knew shamanic medicine. They could use it when they needed to. Two Bears, I think, was a true shaman. I saw him do things or have things happen around him. We don't do anything. But I saw things happen around him that I've never seen with anyone else. And probably Umberto, who was a very, very old Mayan teacher of mine. The others, I think, were more like I guess I am now. We could use the techniques, we can use the medicine, but we never would say that's what we are. Some of them, their tribe said, oh yeah, they're a shaman. And okay, they'd accept that if that's what the tribe wants. But it's not something to use lightly, that's for sure. And I'm trying to think because it might help. Well, the first time I really truly used it, okay, I was in Northern California, living there for a while, working with the tribes up that way and learning. And an elder I didn't know came to me and asked if we could work a little bit, and we did. And then after our fourth or fifth visit, he said, I really need you to work with this woman who I can't do anything for. I'm thinking, well, what's that about? And this woman her name was Susan. She was 32, 33 at the time. She had 8 or 9 months before, lost all 3 of her children at once in a horrific automobile accident. And then a month later, her husband left. He couldn't take it. And so she just wanted to check out. She just wanted to leave. And he didn't understand. She was Anglo. He didn't understand her culture enough to be able to work with her. So after working with her for about 6 months, it took me that long just to get her to admit that she didn't really want to leave. She wanted to heal and understand what had happened. Then that's the first one that I really said, okay, let's use some of these darker ways. And we went off and started journeying to places because I didn't have any other way to pull her back. She just experienced too much pain in too short a period of time. So that's the kind of person I would use it with. One other, their pains were emotional and mental more than anything. And as I worked with them, and I actually sent them to a couple of other folks who had skills that I don't, and they did past life regressions and some of that work. And apparently this was going back 50 or more lifetimes for them. So there's no way you're going to deal with an illness here that goes back there unless you go back there. And so, again, I used the medicine with that person.
Wow, amazing. It's yeah, I think the fact that you're saying how powerful it is and don't go into it lightly is a great thing, because as we said before, shamanism is such a catchword. Everyone wants to try it, but I think, you know, you've given us a bit more of an insight to what it is, and to be a bit more wary about, you know, the things that we hold within us and within our energy, you know, and to do it in a safe environment. I think that's the key that we, you know, can take out of this. You know, to make sure that your practitioner really does, you know, work with nature, as you say, you know, really practices the shamanic ways before you let anyone into your energy field. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, you know, you can absolutely learn some of the practices. That's, I'm starting a course here in Colorado very soon. I'm going to just students, and I will teach them some of the practices, not the real deep stuff. That takes years. But I'll teach them the things on the surface that, like we're talking about now, that could help them with themselves and with those that they treat. And I'll probably do an online course like that too. But that's different than, you know, I remember when I was living in Sedona, this young fella, I don't think he was maybe 20, 21. He came running up to me when I was walking. I don't know why he picked me. I was walking with Sue, my wife, and he was all smiles, and I just got to tell somebody. I just had this wonderful 2-day course, and it was only $500, and it's a shaman course, and he told me that I'm a natural shaman, and 4 more courses, and he'd give me a certificate, and I'd be a shaman. And I went, whoa. So that's what you want to avoid.
Wonderful. I've loved speaking to you today. I could speak forever about this because there's so many questions, but we can do more videos. Yep. If anyone wants to get hold of you, where will they find you?
Jim Graywolf Petruzzi. Graywolf is GRAYWOLF. I'm on Facebook. You can email me at jimgraywolfpetruzzi@gmail. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website. Our nonprofit is Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother, and the website is www.sotem.org. And of course, they can Skype me. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in today, Jim. I always really enjoy our conversations.
I do too, Sharon. It's fun. Thank you.
See you next time.
Okay.